Hey everybody, this is Chief Meteorologist Brad, Petrovich for SkiSoutheast.com, and you knew it was coming. I gave you the heads up last week. We had such a great start to the season. It was going great, and then we always get one of these thaws. But the good news is we are going to see a short-lived thaw, but it's going to be pretty warm this week for a lot of the ski areas in the southeast. Let's get right to the details here. The bad news is we've got warm fronts showing up on the map. You don't want to see warm fronts. We've got a warm front coming from the Gulf of Mexico and a whole lot of moisture. In fact, this looks to be a pretty wet pattern for the North Carolina and Tennessee mountains. Now, there's a chance here this could be a little bit of a wintry mix up in West Virginia. And when I show you my ski forecast, I'm going to show you one of those weird days where we could have some natural snow in places like Winter Place up to Snowshoe and Wisp, but it's going to be a wet, heavy snow, and it's probably going to be too warm to make snow, even though snow could be falling. So you can see on Wednesday night in particular, maybe a little bit of a mix. I don't think it's going to be a big deal. It's going to be more rain, a cold rain. This little front moves through, and what's interesting is on Thursday into Friday, we could get some cold air damming east of the Appalachians. High pressure is going to briefly build in over Pennsylvania. They could be cold enough for some snowmaking on Thursday night, though I don't think it's going to be ideal. Certainly be an inversion set up here in North Carolina, so warmer at the top of the mountain than it is at the base. We'll probably see that most of Thursday into Friday, but the pattern really gets warm going into the weekend because we've got this another system heading our way with a big warm surge heading ahead of it, and this is the big front that's heading our way for the holiday weekend that eventually is going to cool us down. Unfortunately, ahead of it, it's going to bring us some pretty mild conditions. So we look at those sub-freezing temperatures. It's not real great. You can see there's really, that Wednesday morning maybe up in West Virginia. You can see Thursday's the one day where I kind of think if there's going to be some snowmaking opportunities, it would be Thursday morning, Wednesday night into Thursday morning, but it's not real great setup, and even going into Thursday night, not ideal either. So when you look at the snowfall forecast, it's not really anything to write home about. This is through Thursday, 5 p.m., pretty much a big zero goose egg there. So here's what I'm thinking right now for this week. Natural snow chances, believe it or not, possible on Wednesday, even though it won't be cold enough to make snow. And I think Wednesday night into Thursday morning, there might be a minor opportunity for some snowmaking for Virginia, West Virginia, Maryland, North Carolina, and Tennessee. It's just a no-go right now. I just don't see it being a really good setup in the short term. So that's the bad news. This is through Christmas Eve. But on Christmas Eve into Christmas Day, that's when we're going to see some changes start to develop. We look at the long-range pattern here. The polar vortex has kind of been reloading. So while things are warming up here, the polar vortex is reloading up here, and it's about to dump what, depending on what model you look at, one of the strongest Arctic highs I've seen in a long time. Now, I think the models are struggling with this because it's a very anomalous setup. It's not something you see very often, but a little chunk of that polar vortex looks like it's going to try to move into the plains. Unfortunately, that puts us on the warm side of this big trough on Christmas Eve into early Christmas Day, but that cold air eventually is going to push east, and I think by the day after Christmas and really the week after Christmas is looking pretty good into the new year. This could be a pretty cold pattern setting up shop. In fact, I'll look at the European temperatures here, and you'll see the bad news first. Here comes the warm-up. See, there's that brief cool down Thursday I was talking about. You know, that would be decent snowmaking up there, though. I doubt it's going to be that cold long because it's more of a wedge setup. But you see going into Christmas weekend, Saturday, Sunday, pretty significant warm-up here across the southeast. But here's our Arctic front sitting back here. Now, the timing of the Arctic front is kind of tough to pin down. Is it going to be Saturday, Sunday, Monday, or Tuesday? The European model is definitely warmer for Christmas Day, but eventually it does bring in the cold air the day after Christmas. And when it moves in, I'm talking super cold, moving in for the 26th. So you're looking towards the 26th. This is way, way cold. Probably going to be some northwest flow and some good snow on the backside of the Arctic front. And then it just gets ridiculous cold. When you see these kind of blue shades showing up here on Thursday morning, that's below zero temperatures up there. If you look right there, that's the zero line right there. So when you see that kind of, I don't know what to call that color, like some kind of weird shade of aqua, blue, greenish, teal, I don't know. But that's when you have below zero temperatures. So this is a really cold pattern shaping up for after Christmas, the 26th, 27th, 28th. And just to show you what that would look like if we want to believe the surface pattern, you'll see the warm-up with this system coming in this weekend. There's our system on Thursday. Here's Friday, Saturday. And then watch what happens on Christmas Eve. Here's the Arctic front. And it'll be one of those weird Arctic fronts where there could be overrunning snow on the backside of it, warm ahead of it. So Christmas is looking pretty warm here in the southeast. But look what happens the day after Christmas. This will be Christmas night into the next day. Here comes the snow on the backside of the Arctic front. This will be a little bit of northwest flow snow coming in as well on the backside of this system. And then that cold front moves through. And then here comes the big Arctic high. You actually can see it here in the isotherms or isobars. This is a pretty cold pattern, by far the coldest air we've seen so far this season setting up. So great snowmaking setting up after the holiday. And when you look at the long-range temperature outlooks from the CPC, these are the chances of below average temperature. You see that Arctic air is going to be in the middle of the country, but it's going to be pushing to the east. So eventually it moves into the southeast after Christmas. So this is the 24th through the 28th. And again, remember, this is the probability of below average temperature. It doesn't mean how far below. It just means the chances of below average. And that's a big Arctic high that's going to be pushing to the east. So pretty good setup after Christmas. The bad news, this is the forecast for this week. Not a great week here as we go into the holiday weekend, but we're going to save it with some great cold weather next week. Now, there's no potential big storms in the offing. I don't see anything showing up now, but with this Arctic high, you're going to have to watch on the edge, where the warm air and the cold air meet up is kind of where we watch for the possibility of storm development. Right now, that doesn't look possible, at least in the next 7 to 10 days, but it's a pattern to watch as we go into the new year. The good news, it's going to be plenty cold enough next week to make snow. This week, not so good, but this is one of those typical southeast thaws we are used to. The great news is we had a good start to the season, so we should be able to weather through this warm-up until the next blast of cold air comes in next week. Have a great week, everybody. I'll post another update on Wednesday night and Thursday going into the weekend. Until then, think snow and cold. We got to get this warm air out of here.